Elon Musk has bought Twitter for approximately $44 billion.
The meltdown, by the way, is already underway.
They're freaking out over the fact that we're going to not have viewpoint discrimination.
And when you saw those clips yesterday, and you saw almost on cue the liberal media and the mainstream media,
well, they're in meltdown,
just responding in the way that you fully expected them to, and Elizabeth Warren and all these people to actually say really the talking points that a lot of conservatives have been saying.
You don't have to explain yourself. You don't even have to be transparent. You could secretly ban one party's candidate or all of its candidates, all of its nominees, or you could just secretly turn down the reach of their stuff and turn up the reach of something else, and the rest of us might not even find out about it till after the election.
They live in a bubble. They're psychotic. They are morons. They have horrible staff prepping them because they should know that every conservative was going to be on top of them, calling them out for what they are. The fact that he read that from the teleprompter,
somebody wrote it for him,
and he prepped that, they've got no sense of where they are.
No,
they have no sense of reality.
Actually think this.
No sense they don't live in the real world.
This deal is dangerous for our democracy. Billionaires like Elon Musk play by a different set of rules than everyone else, accumulating power for their own gain. We need a wealth tax and strong rules to hold big tech accountable.
Some Twitter users might love the idea that there's going to be absolutely no moderation and no rules at all. Others might not want to be anywhere near that.
The reason the mainstream media is reacting this way is because they know once you have information come out and people can actually get both sides of a story or four sides of a story, because there's multiple sides of these issues, that what happens is people start thinking again. And right now we've got everybody in their little zone of where they're going to get their information. So why is the left freaking out, which they are, over the fact that a guy finally steps up to the plate and says, you know what? I'm just going to buy Twitter because it's censoring speech.
The Department of Homeland Security is setting up a disinformation board.
This is another weaponization of the federal government to come after average Americans speaking their mind.
We have just established a Mis- and Disinformation Governance Board in the Department of Homeland Security to more effectively combat this threat.
You talk about an attack on freedom of speech, folks. I mean, you do realize what's happening, right? The government is impaneling a group of government employees who will, without court order, without court oversight, will decide whether speech you're giving constitutes disinformation.
The Department of Homeland Security, and frankly no other department or agency in our government, should have something called a disinformation board. I mean, disinformation for this administration is mostly facts that are inconvenient politically for Joe Biden and the Democratic Party.
Being a free speech absolutist means you will hear opinions and views that you don't like, that might make you uncomfortable, that might even make you mad. But that's part of living in America. That's what makes us different than even other democracies around the world, is that we actually have, or at least had, freedom of speech.
This is the type of stuff that the North Korean government would invent, or the old Soviet Union would invent. Like, who is to be the arbiter of something like this when they obviously represent one ideology?
How about this, Mayorkas? Secure the border. Stop the sex trafficking. Stop the drug cartels. Stop the fentanyl from coming in here. Stop overrunning our cities. That would be a good use of funds. But instead, we've set up a governance board involving misinformation and disinformation. The new official government censors, set up with your taxpayer dollars in mind to monitor what we say.
John Durham says the CIA found data alleging that the Trump-Russia connection was not technically plausible and was user-created.
This is reading from the Durham filing on Friday night. The CIA concluded in early 2017 that the Russian Bank One data and Russian phone provider One data was not, quote, technically plausible. This came from the CIA. Did not, quote, withstand technical scrutiny, quote, contain gaps, quote, conflicted with itself, and, quote, was user-created and not machine or tool generated.
User-created means it was invented out of thin air by human beings. And in fact, Durham calls it spoofed traffic and a trick.
That means that there were people literally making this data up. When it says user-created, that means somebody made up this data. They didn't take data that existed and mislabel it. They didn't go, this data didn't exist. It was user-created. And it wasn't true.
The ultimate
corruption of democracy, to have the people in charge of the coercive tools of the country, national security, police power, use it to choose the leader of the country.
And this is what clouded the entire 4 years of President Trump's administration, was made up data.
The CIA saying that this whole report, this whole Russian dossier from the Steele dossier is completely fake. Who's going to jail?
The dissenting voices were always there from the very beginning. They were classified away, they were silenced, they were bullied.
And yet, still to this day, we have Democrats on Capitol Hill trying to claim there were some Russian links to the Trump campaign, even though the CIA said it was, quote, user created. And they go so far as to say spoofed, altered, or fabricated.
Biden having second thoughts on ending an effective Trump-era border policy.
As a matter of principle, we want to be able to be in a position where if, in fact, it is strongly concluded by the scientists that we need Title 42, that we be able to do that. But there has been no decision on extending Title 42.
How many times do you want to hear the administration does not have a plan before you realize the administration doesn't have a plan? And that the problem here is going to be a humanity crisis.
When you remove these Title 42 protections, Homeland Security has estimated that that's going to mean that 18,000 unlawful migrants will cross a day, 540,000 per month.
The CDC was at least the agency that was tasked with Title 42 enforced by the Department of Homeland Security. But what is so concerning here is the numbers of people that will be able to get through the border with a basically welcome to the United States, come on in. It's a staggering number.
Border Patrol agents are saying they can't handle 3,000. So 7,000 is ridiculous and 18,000 is unconscionable.
Wes, you talk about the moral issues surrounding the border situation as well as national security.
The fact that the Biden administration refuses to take this seriously, and they're not taking it seriously, and refuses to take action just on those two issues alone should raise alarm bells.
It's not just Title 42, it's also the migrant protection protocols, it's Remain in Mexico, it's all of those programs, Operation Talon, that the Biden administration has walked away from. Cumulatively, Jay, what does that lead to? It leads to another surge on the border.
Our lawmakers have to confront problems. They need to close the border and recognize if you don't have a border, you don't have a country.
These policies are having real consequences, and we're about to see a surge in numbers that, look, no country could handle. Support the work of the ACLJ at aclj.org.